off. Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending where you're dialing in from, and welcome to our webinar today, hosted by InfoTrust on how to understand customer behavior and increase revenue with analytics, which is a paraphrased title for the full title, which couldn't fit on the slide here, for how your e-commerce enterprise can understand your customers and increase revenue through digital analytics. So really excited for everyone to be joining today for this webinar that we have hosted. A couple housekeeping items before we jump in. If there's any issue with audio or video, which I should be sharing my screen, please post in the chat pane. I'll try and resolve as I go through, but hopefully there are no issues. Also, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to also post in the chat pane. I'll be monitoring that throughout the presentation today, but also we should have some time at the end to cover any questions. The webinar today should only be about 30-35 minutes, I hope, depending on the number of questions and how off topic I can go on certain slides. But of course, this is being recorded, and the slides and recording will be sent out to everyone post-webinar. So again, thank you everyone for joining today, and I think we can go ahead and get started. So first, a quick introduction to me, who's speaking. My name is Amin Shaki. I am the Regional Managing Director of InfoTrust here in MENA. We're a US-based web analytics consulting and product development technology company. Our headquarters are in Cincinnati, USA, but we expanded here to Dubai in the UAE almost a year and a half ago now to help support our global clients as well as tackle this emerging market and help organizations, hopefully like yourselves, to better understand the value with digital analytics and leverage it for your digital marketing activities. So we're certified partners with Google. A lot of the content today will reference Google Analytics, Google Analytics 360, and that process, because that's what we work in every single day. In UAE, at least, I know Google Analytics is the most popular tool in the world as well across all websites. But the concepts that I'll be sharing today for how to understand your customer behavior can be applied to any analytics platform, but the screenshots and specific use cases and case studies that I'll be sharing are from Google Analytics and our work with various organizations. We do these types of training programs a lot, so feel free to check out our website. I posted a link to our website, infotrustlc.com, for our upcoming events. We have lots of webinars, which are similar to this, 30, 45-minute introductions or deep dive into different topics. As well, if you're located in Dubai or plan on visiting in the next couple months, we have some in-person events and sessions, all free for the most part, to do that. But we also do training programs for individual organizations, and we analyze and work with lots of different companies and different types of websites. So hopefully that's enough proof that we know what we're talking about for this topic. As far as the agenda for today, we're going to go through a few areas here. Very brief overview on e-commerce and emerging markets from some quick research I put together just to frame the opportunity for businesses. Then we're going to talk about how Google Analytics specifically can drive some e-commerce revenue, or better understanding into how to increase revenue, or what to look at, what to think about, what type of questions to be asking, and what type of answers you can expect once you have the analytics set up. So also, I'll be showing some screenshots from other clients without showing their names or their product names or anything that's personal, just to show you what the concept data could look like if you don't have it set up, or if you do, how you can actually analyze and use your data to drive revenue. Talk a little bit about visualizing shopping behavior in the purchase funnel and how that can be useful, and then close with some best practices, use cases, and maybe how to get started so you guys can get a jump start on the topic. Of course, we have Twitter. Feel free to tweet at it. I might not be checking that throughout the presentation, but it's there. So we can go ahead and jump in with the first agenda bullet point here, e-commerce and emerging markets, just with a little bit of information and data. So based on some really quick research we did recently, we see that opportunity and sales for retail or e-commerce, it's especially in emerging markets, is growing. Everyone knows this, but the numbers actually prove that lots of markets on this side of the world and in emerging areas has nearly doubled, if not more, between 2014 and 2016 alone. Quick report that I reviewed, 2016 Global Retail Development Index from A.T. Kearney. I pulled together some numbers at a high level to show the tremendous growth and status of just retail sales in general across a few markets I pulled here. So MENA, Middle East, Northern Africa, countries like UAE, KSA, Egypt combined, Turkey, South Africa. You can see here the drastic explosion, if you will, in the retail market and size and opportunity, if you will. So that's why we really focus on this industry and this vertical as an organization, and why it's really exciting, and why we're happy to be here in the region as well to be a part of this tremendous growth. So the opportunity is there, and like I mentioned, not just from our quick research or some of the reports I was able to find online with this public data, but even industry experts themselves agree that the e-commerce sales will dramatically grow. In the UAE alone, here's a quote from an industry expert that gave in a local interview that e-commerce market sales are expected to expand to $10 billion or more USD by 2018 in the UAE alone, which is just one of the countries that comprise of the Middle East, Northern Africa region. So clearly there's an opportunity here with this many sales, this much revenue coming through online. It's really important to understand how to analyze and improve and optimize your spending, but also just what you're doing to engage your customers and how to capture them online and really get raving fans out of them as well. So I think now we can transition. Again, I just wanted to briefly touch on e-commerce in emerging markets, but we can move over to how Google Analytics can specifically help answer some of the questions about what your customers are doing, how they're engaging, and how to really capture them online to drive some revenue. So to start, anytime we work with an organization to review their digital analytics or review their digital marketing in general, we need to make sure we're asking the right questions, or at least we have the right KPIs in mind when trying to build any kind of system or launch any new campaign or really just understand your customers. So actionable questions lead to actionable data, and actionable data leads to good actions and improvements across your business. So wanted to list a few of the questions that you can start with to begin exploring how to get to those answers in order to make better marketing decisions in your day-to-day activities. So some questions like, what marketing channels bring the best customers? Obviously, you probably have a set marketing budget, or you're running advertising across a few different channels and running some different campaigns, and really understanding which ones not only drive just volume, but the best customers, the ones that are more engaged, go through the shopping funnel, come back, or are your raving fans. That's really important. Not only what channels, but which devices, particularly in emerging markets. We've seen, and I'm sure you've seen with your organization and business as well, that mobile devices are key and often used way more than desktop devices for research, investigation, general sessions, but sometimes average order value or volume of sales is higher on other devices. So how to understand what devices are working for your business and why, and how to improve that is key here. Also, if you are an e-commerce business selling online, how to really improve the shopping funnel and checkout steps. There's been a lot of research and a lot of experimentation that we've seen and that we've helped our clients perform to really optimize the key touch points and what is really critical to show or to have users go through as they drive through the purchase funnel. So it's important to understand where users are dropping off, where there's friction points, and also how to re-engage them. So for those that do drop off, why and how can we re-engage them? And then lastly, as a retail e-commerce business, you have products, so really understanding your merchandising, how to present your products, how to present your promotions internally in different activity or different marketing banners that you might have on site or in-app. That's also really important to keep in mind. All of these questions are important to think about as you're looking into using analytics to drive improvement. Without having a question in mind, you won't know what answer to search for and what action to take after that. So what we recommend, and this is kind of jumping a little bit to getting started, is documenting what questions do you and your business have of your data, of your customers, of what they're doing. If you document those, you can create some KPIs around those in order to make sure that you have the right data and analytics to answer those and drive decision making from that. So from here, I'm going to go really into just some examples. So you might see from some of the thumbnails of the slides coming up, there's lots of computer screens. That's because I want to show in Google Analytics some really tangible reports and insights that you can glean from things that you might set up. So this might be reporting that you have currently, and I'm just going to explain how you can actually leverage it, or things that you might want to plan to implement, plan to add on, because it could give you some really key insights when you're running some analysis. So the first thing is measuring value and return on advertising spend. So this is geared more towards the first question here of what channels and which campaigns are driving the best customers. When we work with organizations, oftentimes when we first start, we hear that our analytics is set up perfectly. We can see campaigns that are bringing in users. We know which ones are the best. But when we really dig into it and ask, okay, which one's bringing in the most value or the most return or the most engagement, that's where it breaks down a little bit. So it's important when we suggest looking at acquisition tracking, not to get stuck just with the volume of sessions or users or page views that come from any source of traffic. Of course, that's important in awareness campaigns or if you're starting up to really accumulate volume of customers or build your brand and get noticed. But when it comes down to it, driving value and return is what's going to improve your business and the bottom line. So in Google Analytics, there is capability specifically to show not only volume of traffic and seeing how users are coming and arriving on the site, but at what cost and how they're engaging. So what I want to show here is an example of measuring return on advertising spend. And I have a case study that I'll show later on that we published with Google about one of our clients that used this KPI, this metric, to really drive their business. But when we work with organizations in retail or e-commerce, we recommend using return on advertising spend as one of their main focuses. And really this report, it can be as simple as this, where in your analytics setup, you have probably already your sources of traffic that are bringing in sessions. By default, this is what most organizations have today, whether it's automatically tracked by analytics or your platform, or you set up some custom tracking, some integrations with other products like AdWords and Google Analytics together. You'll probably get the session count and the session metric to see just volume to start. What's important though is to bring in additional metrics, because in Google Analytics, you'll be able to not only see sessions, but also things like bounce rate or time on site, etc., even conversions or orders. If you have the tracking set up, you can see which channel is bringing in the most revenue or the most orders. But these systems, these advertising channels and campaigns also have metrics that might be useful to see side by side. Things like impressions, clicks, and cost. These metrics alone, Google Analytics would not be able to capture or see by default. Google Analytics only fires or loads when the site or app is actually visited. So the impressions, how many times an ad is seen, but maybe not clicked, or even how many times it's clicked, doesn't necessarily get tracked by Google Analytics. Only the session or the visit once the user arrives is tracked. And especially cost, that lives in your advertising platforms. Now, why am I mentioning this? When you combine these metrics with Google Analytics, assuming you have revenue tracked in orders and conversions, you can begin to unlock some additional metrics like return per click and return on advertising spend. Return on advertising spend takes the revenue that you earn from these different sources of traffic, bringing in users and sessions, but overlays cost with it to run a calculation and see the return. So any advertising channel that has over 100% has positive returns. Anything below, you're actually spending more than you are getting in return. You're having less revenue than you are investing in it. again, maybe that's a strategy just to get awareness, build your brand, get out there. Lots of competition in your industry, what have you. But if you're focused on performance and focused on really driving the bottom line, having a positive ROAS is key here. One example, I know it might be a little small, so maybe I can make this full screen here, just to show with the screenshot that I have. You may have automatically, if you have Google Analytics integrated with Google AdWords and you're running paid search advertising, you might have this data shown for Google AdWords. By pulling in other sources of traffic in these metrics, which there is functionality to do so, we even have a product that automates this ourselves, you can also see that data with other channels. And what's interesting in this example, you can see Google AdWords definitely brings in the most sessions for this screenshot here. It has the most cost, therefore, and the return is still positive. The return on advertising spend here on the last column. But if you compare it to Facebook Social, yes, there's less sessions because there's less cost, maybe less investment, less campaigns running, less marketing spend thrown at this campaign. But the return on advertising spend is more than double that of Google CPC or other channels. So maybe Facebook Social in this case is better for this particular organization's customers. So again, understanding your customers, which ones are bringing in the best, which source of traffic, are bringing in the best. In this case, it would seem that social, though the volume is less, they're much more engaged, they're much more interested in this product and this company, so they want to buy more often. So the investment is lower. Or this channel is just cheaper, but still brings in a fair amount of sessions and conversions. So the action from this is, okay, what if we pour more into Facebook Social or hire someone to really be dedicated to that channel or just put more investment into it? Maybe not take any away from other campaigns because they have high volume, but still see if we can get more volume from other channel sources, but maintain a high return on ad spend metric. So this data kind of provides that insight. Let me just take a quick look. Okay, no questions. That's one example of analytics that can help you understand your customers. Another is with understanding or measuring user engagement. So this one is a pretty quick example here, and hopefully most of you on the call have some sort of tracking enabled already to understand not only where people are coming from or what pages they're looking at or what they're purchasing maybe, but what are they doing in between? What is the consumer journey? What kind of interactions are users having with your site or mobile app that leads up to an ultimate conversion? In Google Analytics, these are called events, but really any analytics tool can capture and track user engagement or user interactions. What I'm showing here on the screen is just an example of a really clean structure. It might not be the best structure, but at least it's clear to show what type of actions users are taking. When we work with organizations and do an initial audit or assessment phase on how things are set up, we oftentimes jump straight to the events report to see, is it clear what people are doing? Is it really clean the way the nomenclature is and the way the tracking is set up to really identify what are the key actions users engage with that actually drive conversion, whether that's goals, e-commerce, orders, purchases, etc. So you can see in this example that I took from a client, it's pretty clear the category and action of user interactions, what people are doing. So the most volume here as submitting discount codes or registering, getting some coupons, etc. So these things are being actively engaged by users. This simple report just shows you the total volume of these user interactions, but you can again combine it with how much revenue comes from same sessions that interact with different things. So even if one type of event doesn't have high number of volume, but the revenue per session that has that event is super high, maybe you need to push users to see that type of interaction more often. For example, if coupons that are used always have a high average order value, or for sessions that include a coupon interaction, the revenue is much higher on average, then maybe showing more coupons and pushing that more to the consumer on site would be valuable as well. This is the most basic way to track that with events or user interactions. To transition a little bit to the specific e-commerce analytics that you can use, particularly for understanding your customer behavior on site. The product placements and merchandising reports are useful here. So if you're an e-commerce retailer, then you probably have multiple landing pages or product list pages and various areas that your users can see your products, engage with them, add to cart, etc. So there's a report and several reports actually with various dimensions and metrics to identify where people are not only seeing products, but where they're actually clicking on products to see more, to go to the detail page, or to ultimately buy. So I have some bullet points here that I won't read through specifically. It's more just for reference as I explain. But in this report, screenshot shown here from Google Analytics Enhanced E-commerce Reporting, we're looking at the product list section, which shows you areas where products are actually displayed. And the product list views is how many times a product is seen on a particular list, how many times it's clicked on, the click-through rate, and then ultimately if it converts or do users actually continue on with that same product. For example, where this might be useful is if you have one product that shows up in multiple different lists or multiple different areas of your platform or website or app, which one makes the most sense for that product? Or should it belong in both? And where in that list should it actually reside? Because you can also show the product list position. So if in one list a product is in position 1 at the very, very top, where another list it's position 50 near the bottom, or just on a second page or whatnot, you can see, does that actually impact how often people engage? Are people still going all the way through to get that product? Does it make sense if we move it up or down? And you can experiment with the merchandising and how you display products and analyze it using this type of report here, if it actually drives an increase in purchases or an increase in conversion. So these reports are super useful. The last point I want to say about this particular report is the way we implement it at InfoTrust for our clients is always scroll-based. So if you're tracking product impressions, how often people see products versus click to get a click-through rate, we always do a scroll-based, meaning the products that are seen when a page loads are the only ones that actually get an impression. If there's any products below the fold or on a second page, or they have to toggle through or scroll down to see more, only once a user scrolls and it becomes visible on the screen of the user is when we actually fire a product impression or list view. This makes it a lot more accurate versus what Google support pages automatically say is fire all impressions automatically on page load. This segments it so that the true list views or the true impressions are only the ones that are tracked. And you get a more accurate count for list clicks, click-through rate, etc. Similar report, but not focused on products, is the internal promotions report. And this is all about tracking banners or campaigns internally on your site or apps. Things like discounts or promotions, various other marketing that you might have on site to engage users. So maybe a summer sale or some kind of coupon code that they can apply to their order that might engage them to purchase more. You can track that in Google Analytics similarly to the product impressions. Even when we do it with our clients, again, we do it scroll-based or timer-based, meaning on most homepages today across the internet, there's a carousel that is on an auto timer that cycles through new releases or new deals or seasonal items, etc. As that carousel cycles through the first time, we capture an impression at that point in time. Or as users click through the carousel to cycle through it, we would fire a list impression internal promotion view at that point. That makes the click-through rate a lot more accurate. Only when a user actually sees the impression, sees the promotion and clicks on it will that click-through rate be calculated. And then you can see how does that translate into orders or transactions as well. So I'm showing the example here in Google Analytics, and the only one that I could show that doesn't really reveal any detail about this particular client is row number 10, where it says coming soon. So this particular client has a coming soon banner showing some new products or in the future release or in the next month or two some new products, trying to entice users to click and investigate and learn more and go to landing page and potentially order ahead. So you can see here the different impression or views, number of clicks, click-through rate, etc. for that particular type of banner. Just going to quickly check. No questions still, so we're good. The last example report that I wanted to share, because again, there's many different types of reports in Google Analytics that can help you understand your customers and customer behavior. But I wanted to just go over some of the key ones that we've worked on with our clients and some of the reporting that we give to our clients regularly. This one's a little bit more niche, and it might not be relevant for all customers, but this one is about inventory management. So if your site shows products that are out of stock or on back order, or products that you have but they're on a waiting list, we can track those in Google Analytics or in any analytics platform and see some insights around that. So what we've done for one of our clients, or for a couple of our clients, is set up a metric where we would capture any time a product is seen that happens to be out of stock at that moment in time. There are actions on that site that we're also tracking, like notify me when it's back in stock, or order ahead of time, back order even if it's longer shipping, etc. But the fact that we're just tracking a view or an impression of when that product is seen but out of stock, what we can do here is a couple things. If the organization wants to react very quickly as soon as a product is seen but out of stock even once, we can set up alerts to notify the organization, hey, this product was seen but out of stock. Of course, there's back-end inventory management saying, these products are suddenly out of stock, etc. But if they're not the most popular products, they're products that you don't keep a lot of inventory of, but they happen to run out, maybe that shouldn't be the focus. So what we've done for one of our clients is track out-of-stock impressions side by side, regular detail views on that detail page. And if we see there's a high number or a high volume of detail views and out of stocks together, then this is a product that people are really interested in. Maybe a campaign is really working and ran out of stock, but it's really popular. And the team can act much faster than waiting for a back-end inventory system that might take time and require some operational work. Here, this data can be immediately tracked and sent over to the marketing teams, maybe to send a quick email communication to all consumers, like, hey, just ran out of stock, this is when it's going to be back in stock, or just so that there's some insights there over time, which products have the most views, but also run out of stock, and at what frequency. What is the trend line for out of stocks, and how can we better address that moving forward? So this is just one niche, a little bit outside of the normal reporting with Google Analytics, but a custom capability and custom solution that you can have. Okay, to transition to the next section here, I wanted to show a few examples of visualizing shopping behavior in the purchase funnel. Again, this is particularly with Google Analytics automatic reports, a few custom reports as well. Of course, there's many different ways, as long as you have the tracking set up for what users are doing throughout your platform and your app, like I showed before via event tracking perhaps. You can always export that data, throw it in a visualization tool like Data Studio, Tableau, etc., and visualize it that way with many, many funnels. What I wanted to show today is just the free and automatic way to do it with Google Analytics, assuming you have the tracking in place to do so. It is useful. There are some capabilities and functionality that can be powerful within GA as well. So first I want to show the shopping behavior funnels, what they used to be more or less, and what they are now and how they work. So I'll go ahead and make this full screen. Prior to enhanced e-commerce, the only way to see any kind of funnel visualization, or the best way, I guess, in Google Analytics was using goals. There were some issues when using goals and goal funnels, like backfilled steps, and it was not always clear where people are dropping off or how to re-engage them and how to build a segment around them. You couldn't use segmentation at all, etc. The list goes on. With shopping behavior funnels in Google Analytics today, you get a visual more like this that shows you different stages that users can process or go through on your app or website. And these are pretty generic and stuck by Google, but there is custom ways to modify other shopping funnels we'll get to in a second. But this shows, generally the steps that people, users, consumers can take to ultimately purchase on your platform. What's cool about these is that it automatically shows you the number of sessions at any stage along the path to purchase, shows you the percentage of what percent users go from one stage to a next, so the conversion rate between two stages. It also shows you the number of dropouts or abandonments, sessions that end on a particular stage, at what rate, again, abandonment rate in total, or between two different stages. It even shows you where users might enter a particular stage. So an example might be if you have a custom platform that users can add to cart without seeing a product detail page, product detail view, they might enter at add to cart. So maybe on the homepage, you have some products showing to users, some key products or things that you want users to engage with. They can add straight from there, and that might cause a session to begin as sessions with add to cart. So this is a really useful visual tool, but it's also very functional because you can actually click and engage with this tool or this report to build segments and then ultimately audiences for your remarketing, retargeting campaigns as well. So this is powerful. And what we've done, even if you're not pure play e-commerce or you sell products online, but you are a business that has websites for branding, and maybe it's all offline purchases that users do in store, you can still use these reports to visualize how people progress through your website, even if the completed purchase doesn't exist on the website. Maybe your conversion is the store locator page, or to fill out a contact us form for more information. Or maybe it's a click off the site to buy with a partner retailer or an e-commerce partner that you might have. You can still use this type of report even if it's customized and not exactly flowing for your site's not an e-commerce platform specifically. You can still use this report to visualize how people progress through any type of stages that you have on your site. What we've done for one of our clients that is actually a site that shows real estate or open properties and apartments and things that people can rent. There actually isn't a purchase or conversion that happens on site. It's all off site with agents, or when someone actually books an apartment or house or buys a house, etc., off site. What we've done is actually use this report to visualize how people progress through the research funnel, if you will. So as people arrive on the site or app, look at individual properties or data, maybe fill out a contact us form or click to show phone number of a particular agent or what have you. That'll be the conversions down here, and you can still visualize how people progress through your custom platform. So most websites today have more than just a landing page. There's a few steps to really get people maybe to sign up for a newsletter or to engage in another way, non-e-commerce, non-revenue based. You can still use these reports for that. I guess I already talked about the different shopping stages with this custom report. With the standard report in Google Analytics. These are just some of the standard stages, so I'll skip that one. What's interesting though with this report, once it's set up and you have tracking, again, not just for e-commerce pure play, but even for a non-e-commerce site, if you set up the funnel to see how users progress through, you'll also be able to see with different dimension drill downs how people progress through different stages and maybe how they're abandoning as well. So in this case, below this report in the standard reporting section, you can see what devices users access your platform with and how they progress through per device type. Again, back to the business questions, asking the right questions. The second one I think was, what devices are users actually engaging with and driving through to purchase? This is a report where you can see device category, even device name, so iPhone, iPad, etc., and how people progress through, maybe where they get stuck. So if you have a different type of site, or it's customized per platform maybe, or it just looks a little bit different or feels different between Android, iOS, and desktop, maybe you can see if that's an issue or opportunities to improve here by looking at this type of report. You can also change the dimension drill down to see what type of source is accessing, or what type of source is bringing the most users to your site or app, and how they're getting people to progress through. If you see maybe your email marketing is bringing a lot of sessions but not really progressing people through, maybe your messaging in your emails don't really match the messaging on your site. Maybe you're promising one thing in your email or getting people excited about something there that doesn't really translate when people land, so they abandon quickly. Or maybe with social media, you're promising some kind of products that people can add to cart, so they go all the way to detail pages, but then they ultimately drop off there because they were expecting one thing from the source of traffic and didn't actually see it on site or in app. So these are just different ways that you can modify the drill downs, modify the dimensions and attributes to get different types of insights and really understand your customers as they go to your platform. Furthermore, with again Google Analytics specifically, because that's we're partners with Google, so we're all on the Google stack, if you will. This particular report, the product performance report, can show you the same type of funnel, how users navigate through what they're engaging with on your site, but at the product level. So individual products or product categories or any kind of product attribute, you can look at the metrics here to answer these types of questions. What are my most viewed products? Which products are most popular? Which ones are getting the most engagement? So add to cart, going through the detail pages, etc. And ultimately, which ones are converting? There's even some automatic metrics here to show, again, conversion rates at the product level. What a conversion rate at the product level could mean is out of the amount of times it's seen, how many times is it purchased? That's what buy to detail rate is. Or out of all the times it's been added to cart, how many actually translates to a completed purchase? Or out of all the times that a detail page is seen, how many times at the product level is it actually added to cart? These can help you measure the effectiveness of your product detail pages, the content you have on your site, and specifics around how you're actually presenting your products, and if they match your customers' interests. If that's what they're looking for, it's what they actually want to see in order to actually purchase and understand what you're selling them. Let me just quickly check if there's any questions. I don't think I see any, so we can move on. To the last few slides of this section as far as visualizing customer behavior in the funnel and the flow, I wanted just to talk about one capability in Google Analytics 360, the enterprise version of Google Analytics, the paid version, is custom funnels. So again, I mentioned with Google Analytics, there's a few standard funnels, the shopping behavior and checkout, and the shopping behavior has set stages, product detail, add to cart, checkout. But if your organization and platform doesn't follow a standard flow or most common retail stages, you can still use custom funnels if you have GA360 and build out a report that has stages that you set. So if you have a custom checkout funnel or you have multiple checkout funnels, depending on device or location, or if a user is logged in or not, you can actually visualize those different funnels separately. Instead of trying to come up with one catch-all checkout funnel or shopping funnel, you can actually make multiple ones. Maybe you just want to see users that land on a particular landing page. Do they make it through to the next page? Do they ultimately add to cart and buy? So it's just a landing page. It's not necessarily a detail page or anything like that. Or maybe it's a category of page. How often are people going to our blog pages, but then ultimately coming back and hitting the checkout steps? Any kind of combination of stages that you want to see users flow through, where they're abandoning and at what rate, you can build a custom funnel which looks exactly like a standard funnel, but just has logic built in that you set and you control. And again, from this, you can create segments for analysis or audiences for retargeting in advertising platforms simply by clicking and engaging with this report in GA. I wanted to show how this might be built or how you can see this. In my example here, if you have custom checkout funnels and flows that users can take, you simply want to build a custom report. Assuming you have GA360, you can use the custom funnel beta and assign what logic you want for each stage of the funnel that you're building. So where do people enter, what's the stages that they follow, and what's ultimately the last one. And Google will automatically calculate the volume at each stage and the percentage between each stage to visualize and show you that report in the custom reporting section. It's pretty powerful. So if you have GA360, this is a really cool way to quickly visualize different user navigations or user flows. Okay, to close the webinar, because I think just want to have a few more minutes, open it up for questions, is some best practices and use cases. If you've ever joined one of my webinars before personally, you see that my best practices are relatively the same because they're still the best practice. As far as how to get started, always have a plan, build a wish list, set your requirements, map your business questions. Get your KPIs down, what you're trying to answer, what you're trying to solve. If you're just thinking, I need to use analytics to just improve my revenue, that's too broad. Come up with some specific questions. What can you improve? What's realistic in your organization to change? If you are in a very large organization that has central development that takes ages to change anything centrally as far as the structure of your website or app or platform, maybe you shouldn't focus on how do I improve the structural navigation, but instead think about content if you control that, or campaigns. If you're doing local campaign management and advertising with a partner here, but centrally your organization is, has all the development, maybe most of your energy should be all about optimizing reaching the right customers, or how to make sure once they are reached, they see the right content if you manage that internally. If you have full control of your platform or app, maybe you can think, okay, how do we completely revamp our checkout because if we feel it's not working? Is it working? How are people navigating through? Where are they getting stuck? Questions like that. Technically speaking, we always recommend starting with an audit to see once you have the questions that you want answered, that you think you can take some action on realistically, which ones do you have data with today that can be answered, or which questions cannot be answered with the data you have today, and what is the process to actually roll it out? Of course, designing an implementation, which we always recommend using a tag management system for web or apps, and whatever analytics platform you use. Of course, we're biased towards Google Analytics, but it only comes after thinking about what you need, what you have currently, and how to modify that. Of course, I also recommend, shameless plug, working with a partner for all three of these stages, such as ourselves, of course. But then you can start with the key critical items. So oftentimes if you're getting started or you haven't used analytics much or you want to really get deeper into it, you might have loads and loads and loads of questions unanswered, and you're not sure if the data is all tracking properly or not, but everything needs to be provided. All the KPIs need to have measurement there. There's a lot of work that goes into setting up a really clean analytics structure. A lot of time, a lot of testing, a lot of validation. Starting with the key or critical items makes everybody's lives easier because it gives you a starting point. So the key critical items like conversions, purchases, and maybe the checkout funnel. I mentioned looking at merchandising and product impressions, product clicks, etc. That should all come after you have the key core revenue and orders confirmed and validated. Once that's deployed, you can use a lot of the Google Analytics reporting to make decisions. Start there, get people thinking about what other questions you can layer on top. So you don't have to implement everything all at once, all up front or very quickly. You can phase it out. Documentation, and I bold here with links back to reporting and visuals. If you're in a large team or organization, documentation and links back to how to get to the answers or get to the data is key. Just letting someone know, yes, we see this question, we have the data, log in and you'll find it. There's not going to be a lot of adoption in your organization for actually understanding your customers and driving revenue. So links back to reporting visuals, especially if you have a central team, is key. And we always say test to make sure you consistently and moving forward always have clean, good data, especially as your site or app improves, you make code changes and improvements, you run new marketing campaigns, etc. Testing to make sure the data is captured is the first step. Wanted to show just one quick use case of how this data can be applied. For one of our clients, they have a different checkout funnel on their mobile site than they do on their desktop site, or just generally it's a different site entirely. So the flow on mobile, you can see here the data, though they have less volume in total, they do have a higher drop-off rate at the all sessions stage here. But on desktop, their checkout funnel is actually better than it is on mobile. So the idea here is that you can use segments and look at these reports to see the difference between the two and learn from one platform to improve the other. So Desktop might have less drop-off in the first stage, but maybe mobile has less drop-off later in the stage. So it might be wise to review the mobile or tablet flow of the checkout and see how that can be applied to desktop and vice versa. What can you learn from each platform to optimize the other? That's kind of the concept here with these different reports, and especially when you apply segmentation. Wanted to show a quick case study I mentioned before with one of our clients regionally here about increasing return on advertising spend using analytics. So I showed a few reports that were example reports, not from this client, about costs, impressions, clicks, combined with revenue. You can see ROAS. What we did for Mom's World, because the goals and the questions were how do we increase online sales, what type of campaigns or channels are working for us to really drive performance. They wanted to be really smart with how to invest in the right channels to actually drive the bottom line and maintain high return on ad spend. So what we did, we implemented all the configuration based off of the business questions, set up our tool Analyzely to automate the integration between their advertising channels, build retargeting campaigns, analyze according to what was driving the highest ROAS, and the results here show at a very high level increase across all KPIs, key performance indicators, that was important to them. We put together a Google case study that you can find online, but really the key here is that 300% return on ad spend across our top 3 paid channels is what the outcome was, because we eliminated the non-performing channels or sources of traffic that was burning spend, and only invested in those that were performing and bringing in high revenue as well as at a low cost. So the increases across the board here reflect the analysis that we could do. So as a takeaway, how to get started. Here's just a couple steps here. We actually have a link which we'll send out with our email follow-up. We have a process guide that we put together to get started with in e-commerce analytics projects. These are just a few steps. It really depends on your organization how you can set up a project, set up analytics, and get this tracking in place. But this is what we generally see as the best sequence of steps to get this rolled out. If you're already working on analytics, you already have some tracking in place, maybe not all, maybe not everything that we explained today. It's still good to go through this process here, even if it's a smaller engagement, just to enhance analytics so that you can really get the most out of the data that you're capturing and really understand your customers better. Let me quickly check. Okay. The last slide I want to show here is just our approach generally. It's a little bit of a shameless plug before we close. But it really supports the previous slide, how to get started. We always look at how to build scalable and flexible architecture. And when we say architecture, we don't just mean technical design. It's a lot of that, but it's also understanding the business processes, the business questions, and what type of data will really drive the business forward. Instead of implementing everything under the sun, which may or may not be used or valuable, wasting a lot of time, energy, and resources, it's actually best to focus on the key drivers within any organization, large or small, and building an architecture that's scalable around that. Then we do the implementation, the integration. We validate the data because bad data equals bad decisions and could really harm your business. So having good data management processes in place, monitoring the quality of collection is key. And then comes down to training enhancements, data insights, and getting people to leverage analytics. So it's more not a afterthought. Who are our customers? How are they engaging? But it's the forethought before building anything, before launching anything. Is will this target the right people? How can we make sure we're measuring this so that we can quickly change or modify any campaigns that we might be working on? So hopefully this was helpful. It's just a quick snapshot of how to understand your customer behavior, increase revenue with analytics. I want to thank everyone for joining or those listening into the webinar recording. Hopefully this was useful for you and your business, but feel free to reach out with any questions now. I'll hang around a few minutes and check out the chat pane. You can feel free to email me. I suppose I can put that on the screen here. And we look forward to speaking with everyone. So thanks again for joining. If you're going to drop off, but I'll stick around if there's any other questions. Okay, there looks like someone does have a question, but I don't actually see the question. I think, Shane, if you don't mind just typing in the question into either the chat pane or the questions panel, I will check that out. I don't actually see what was written, but maybe you're typing it now. So I'll just hang around a few more minutes, see if that comes in. Okay, looks like there's a question here. Question is around setup of custom tracking. For example, the product list and add to cart. Is that automated or must it be set up? Good question, Shane. It's actually not automatically tracked. So it does need some custom implementation. The question here is just how to set up tracking for like product list impressions, product list clicks, add to cart, etc. In Google Analytics, almost everything will be tracked via events, but also with some custom implementation. What we recommend, to go back to best practices, is to use a tag management system and therefore a data layer. From a technical perspective, this means adding some information to your source code across your different pages to identify what products are on that page, what list page it is, or when someone clicks add to cart, adding a little bit of tracking on the website source code that will interact with your tag management system and ultimately be tracked in Google Analytics. So what we do, we're Google Tag Manager Certified Specialist. We use Google Tag Manager because it's a free product. And we work with organizations to build that implementation plan or guide or design it, if you will, which has code samples and specific outline of what to implement where, what code to add on what pages, as long as it's answering the business questions that have been identified. Honestly, with some of our clients, they're not sure what questions to ask of their data, and we also can help strategize. And based on our experience, here are the key questions that you can and should be asking, and here are the actions you can take once you have the data tracked. And then here's how to actually implement it. So we work closely with developers, in-house or third party, to set that tracking up. Hopefully that's not a long-winded answer for what you're looking for, but short, it's not automated. It does need to be implemented custom. You're welcome. Thank you for the question. So again, if there's any other questions, please post them in the questions panel or in the chat pane. And if there's anything unclear with my answer, feel free to, again, reach out to me via email or on our website, contact us page. I did record this webinar, so we will be uploading this to YouTube and sending out a follow-up email later on this week as well. But yeah. So I'll hang around maybe one more minute and then close off the webinar. But thanks everyone again for joining. Hope you have a lovely day. Alrighty, well, I don't see any other questions coming in, so I think I'm going to go ahead and close the GoToWebinar. Again, thanks everyone for joining. Hopefully this was helpful. Please reach out to us if you have any future questions and join our future webinars. We have a few on our website already and a few in-person events if you're in Dubai. Otherwise, hope you have a good day, week, and rest of your year. Thanks so much, everybody. Bye-bye.